All right, let's get going. We're very happy to welcome to our webinar about strategies for brain-friendly meetings. And today I have Mia with me, and it will be really interesting to discuss this topic together. And we have the agenda here, where we'll discuss the following topics: helping customers to understand your identity and values, fostering psychological safety and high-performing teams, how we're triggered by the environment, and then do's and don'ts. And of course, since I work as a sales manager and Mia's also has experience within sales, we will also, of course, focus this on sales and how your company can grow. But Mia, could you start a little bit introducing yourself and who you are?
Sure, Fredrik. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Mia Öhrn, and I call myself an office curator, which means that I help companies find their way in the office, both with the shape of the office, but also how they're working in the office, then in a very brain-friendly manner. I have a background as a diplomat, and the way I got into developing this interest for what makes our brain tick in an optimal way was that I was posted in Asia for the Foreign Service. And I started studying with monks, and I was intrigued by meditation and how this could affect your brain and calm you down in the most stressful of situations. And that led me into how would you speak about this in the Western world, so to say. And that led me to brain research and to look into that. I haven't done research myself, but to study that. And I asked myself, how do we create a world where more people feel better? And where could I affect the future? Well, by working with leaders. So I started working at the Stockholm School of Economics, and where I lectured and coached and had the focus of neuro leadership for several years, actually, adding that to the curriculum. And here we are. Now I'm running my own business in creating brain-friendly workplaces.
Yes, thank you so much, Mia. And Mia is actually, we will go into it later on in the webinar, but Mia is actually having a course that is ongoing. It started yesterday, did it?
Exactly. So I keep it open just because we have this webinar, and for those of you who are here to join until tomorrow is the final closing day. So thank you for pointing that out. It's actually things that I taught at the Stockholm School of Economics before, but now I'm sharing it to a wider audience. So we have about 70 people already signed in. So please join if you feel like it.
Yes, and you will get a QR code in the end as well, where
Excellent.
you can sign up for this exciting course. A little bit about me as well. Actually, I can tell something quite fun. I met Mia was it 3 weeks ago in Stockholm? We attended a conference. Well, we were listening to this keynote speaker, and then I talked to Mia. Of course, we're both of us very social. And then I mentioned to Mia that I work with sales, and I'm in Stockholm to attend these conferences. And then we talked a little bit. I said I will have a webinar soon about how to handle stress in sales. And then Mia was like, "Wow, this is very interesting." So she signed up for that event, and then we talked a little bit, and we said, "Okay, shouldn't we do something together as well?" And now we are here today, just a few weeks later. So it's very fun to do this together. Little bit about me. I'm Fredrik. I'm a sales manager at Seidat. Been working here for almost a year. So getting a little bit warming in my clothes now. Been working before as well with business development, a little bit management consulting, sales as well. And also been studying here in Helsinki at the Stockholm School of Economics. And yeah, I think that's about it. I have 2 kids as well, Melissa, who's 4, and Aiden, who is 6, and really enjoy spending time with my family as well. Yes, diving into this, I hope you guys are ready. Also, of course, we'll have an open chat during this webinar, so you're very welcome to add any questions or thoughts as well as we go along. The first topic we will discuss today is about giving giving clients an experience to understand your identity and values. And the first bullet point here, how to connect and build trust. And of course, everybody who's working with sales or who has worked with sales or even trying to sell themselves, that is such a key in any aspect of business development to build trust. And what I have noticed within sales, meeting with a lot of different people, is that it's more important what you like. It's the most important for you if you want to be successful in your, as in your role as sales or wherever you are in the organization, is to actually build trust. That is more important than the actual the crispy pitch that you have in your meetings. And of course, we can go on talking for hours about how to build trust, but I think what it comes down to is that they should actually feel that you're caring about them, that you're willing to help them to solve their business issues. And I have that same I guess mentality when I have my sales meeting, that I already said before the meeting that, okay, if you don't feel like we're adding enough value for you, and then let's just keep this at one meeting. But if you actually feel that this is something that can help you in your role and help your company, and then you feel it's interesting, then let's continue the discussion. Mia, what would you say?
Yeah, I think you're really onto something talking about trust, and trust is also, we'll soon talk about productive teams, but that's also actually one of the cornerstones also in high-performing teams. But before we go into that, I wanted to just reflect a bit about the environments where we build trust as well. I mean, a lot of meetings are nowadays online, obviously, but as I specialize in developing offices, I often think about the office as a narrative, and this is actually not something I came up with, but some of the researchers at Stockholm School of Economics were writing about this a few years ago, Emma Stenström and Lena Lid-Falkman, and it's really interesting. If I have a few examples here, if I could just, if you just want to show the next slide, Fredrik.
Yes, of course.
Right, Wall Street. Our banks, they show they're here, they've been through the years, they're still going to be here in the future. I mean, this is the stock exchange, obviously, but it's the same kind of logic in big bank buildings, and that's where you want to show that you're really here to last. If you may be moving into a building like this, or the next slide, you might want to show that you're somewhat more forward and techie, and because if you say things that you are things and you're not showing that, then that's going to affect the level of trust that we feel. So if you want to show the next slide, if we say that we care about our brand and we're this standing out against others, other competitors, yet we might be decorating our office like, I don't know how many offices does anyone recognize this kind of layout in an office, right? How many do not decorate their office like this? Or if you want to show the next slide, Fredrik. The bare minimals. And yet you may be saying that we are investing in our most important asset is our people. We're really forward thinking, we're innovative, we're co-creating. And then it looks like this. That's not going to add to your brand value, right? So the point I wanted to make with these pictures is that your office is a narrative, and it's going to affect your perception among clients, but not just among clients, also potential employees, your current employees. So we see that the office has really surged among these factors that affect talent attraction to companies, right? So just if you want to show the next picture as a contrast.
Yes.
So this is another example of something quite sterile, but if you want to show the next picture again, of something a bit more warm, right? you can see that there is actually human trace in this area, right? There has been human presence. Even live plants are here. So this is another narrative compared to the last picture, right? So I wanted to start off by just showing some of those, and maybe if we go back, Fredrik, to the picture with the words on it.
Yes.
So just saying that the office is going to be a narrative, whether you like it or not. And the question is, are you telling a story that you're showing your identity and your values? And I'm not saying show your value by putting a logo on your wall or the value, like the word value proposition or your core values written on the wall. No, you have to feel it, right? And I'm going to bounce back to you, Fredrik, because I think a lot of people pay a lot of attention to the digital experience of a company, right? You put a lot of effort into the website and content in social media, but then as soon as you have this IRL experience of a company, your trust might just go down the drain because it's not coherent with what we see online, right?
Right, exactly. I think this is very, very interesting because, when we have back in the days, of course, before COVID, many meetings were on, face to face. We went to the different offices and we held the meetings. And of course, it is a bit different to create trust when you are meeting a person face to face than if you're actually meeting somebody online. And also, I would say, now Mia has talked about the physical office. It might not be so that you have a lot of, if you think about sales, for instance, that you actually invite the customers to your office or the prospects to your office. I would say nowadays, maybe 95% of the sales meetings, they are held online.
Yeah.
So then you need to think about, okay, you as a company, there are two things. One is, okay, how do we want to be perceived by by our potential customers in the future? So when somebody goes to our website, what kind of feeling do we want them to have? So I think that is so important, and I think a lot of companies are invested so much money into digital marketing, into their websites, to make sure that that they can go through the clutter. Because of course we know that online there are so much information. It's information overload. So how can we actually reach out, and how can we show our true selves as well online? I think that is interesting. If we kind of go into this digital experience as well, I have thought that having online meetings, it is, I would say, like, I don't know, we can have a quite interesting discussion about this, but what would you say, Mia, when you have your meetings? Of course, when you meet face to face, it's easy to have this cold chat in the beginning, or like warm chat to kind of get the conversation going. Do you have any tips or any experiences there? Like, how can you kind of quickly build a trust when you're meeting somebody online?
I mean, I think it's sometimes I feel like common sense goes out the window when we're meeting online. Like, we drop that very human dimension of checking in, hi, how are you doing? All the things that happens between the handshake, the coffee, and sitting down at the table. We still need to make space for that in digital meetings, right? And
Yeah.
I think there's nothing more empty than the quietness after you close down a digital meeting, right? When you're just like on your own, it's just a black void back on the screen, right? So I think we just noticed planning this, right, Fredrik? After this call today, we scheduled the follow-up right after. So when all of you hang up, Fredrik and I have the next chat right afterwards to debrief and check in how did it go. All those things that usually happen in the corridor from the meeting room to the exit, right?
Right.
And I think also, I mean, having spent years in diplomacy, I think most important breakthroughs in negotiations always happened outside the big negotiation table, right?
And people from Finland, I think there are quite a few from Finland, but I heard that many deals are actually closed in the sauna. So if anybody joining here have closed a deal in the sauna or can agree, then you can raise your hand. But if we kind of continue, because we have 3 different topics today that we will discuss. If we go to the next one, this is about psychological safety and high-performing teams. But I don't think everybody that is, knows what does that mean, fostering psychological safety. So could you start off a little bit with that, Mia, and talk to us like what it is at first, but also why is it important?
Yeah. So the term psychological safety was coined by Amy Edmondson, who's a Harvard professor and has done very interesting, created a framework how to measure this in teams. And I think one of the most, it's got quite a few years now. It's a few years old, but it's still a very acknowledged study that was using Amy Edmondson's framework at Google, the Aristotle study there, because they were trying to find out what are the most productive teams doing at Google. How are they so successful coming up with these innovative ideas? So they didn't actually set out to study psychological safety, but it turned out that that was the most important factor in all these teams, was the level of psychological safety. Now, what does that mean? It's the level of, you can say it's almost like the level, it's a bit more complicated, but it's almost like the level of trust in a group. It's if you see a group where vulnerability is actually awarded, that it's not punished, where you dare not knowing exactly all the answers, but you're daring to share half-baked ideas. You're also daring to challenge others in the group, challenge others' ideas, and have your own ideas challenged and scrutinized by others in an open, transparent manner. So imagine a meeting where we're actually openly discussing and turning and looking at different suggestions from different point of views. Normally, these kind of behaviors actually trigger stress in our brain. So if you're openly challenged in a group that doesn't have the psychological safety, then your stress in like it's subconscious, but your stress level is going to be increased. So what we can, if we link this idea to psychological safety to brain research, which is the next point in our slide here, and neuro leadership, that's another term that maybe not everybody knows about in this call, but that's actually when you measure the electricity or the activity in the brain while you're exposed to different kind of social situations to see what part of your brain is triggered or is more active. Okay, maybe, does this make sense to you, Fredrik, what I'm saying now? I was about to debark on a different, on
it does.
more details, but what do you say?
Yeah, it does. And I'm just thinking about this, you talk about vulnerability and those kind of things. I feel like nowadays, those are the traits that are becoming so much more important for leaders as well. That they have a service-minded leadership rather than having this, I guess, showing with the whole hand. So I think this is very interesting. And also I think like having that openness in the groups that, you dare to say, say what you think, or that you actually get support from the group. I think that is so crucial. And I think it goes along, like most teams that are performing well, they're having an openness. They're having the opportunity to, they're feeling trust. They're feeling that they can be open to the colleagues and even, to the managers. So I think this is very, very important. Not only for us as human beings, like personally, but also I would say for companies who wants to have a high, well-performing teams.
Exactly. And I think if I might just add, there's 2 dimensions to accessing competence here, actually, because in the world that we live in, if you run a company or if you're in a company, it's a complex world. There's so many different dimensions to take into account. There's no way that the one manager or boss knows it all, right? So you need to really listen in and take into account everybody in the room and their different perspective to give you these different angles that makes you put all the pieces in the puzzle together, so to say. So one is the like collective intelligence that you get to access in a group, and then the other capacity or dimension of capacity is actually brain capacity. Because what happens if you're stressed, the amygdala, the part of the brain that's in charge of the stress response, if that's triggered, it actually cuts out, you can say, the parts of your brain where you have your executive functions, where you actually weigh pros and cons against each other. You have some sort of a consequential evaluation of decisions you're about to make. Those are blocked. So you actually become stupid if you're stressed.
Like a headless chicken, or?
Sorry?
Like the headless chicken?
Exactly. You run around like that headless chicken. Exactly. So it's actually in your own interest as an employee, but obviously as a manager or in the higher ranks of a company as well, that you get access to all the brain capacity that you've employed, right?
How could you, if you feel like you have a team and you don't feel like they're actually using their brains, what suggestions do you have? How can you have the team or the people actually, doing what they're supposed to do, or kind of using the strengths that they have?
I mean, I think in this time and age, I think we all have a responsibility to really take care of our brains and to make the most to find our own practices that can make us handle stress more, whether that is going for runs or whether it's meditation and mindfulness. But I think there's a lot of talk about self-leadership, right? That we are on our own, taking responsibility for our situation and finding what we as individuals need to work the best. So I think we all like, if you're in a team and you're not working, look at what's not working for you. And if you're a manager, there's a lot you can do, like to set examples and to lead and show your values, come back to the things that are like more stable in yourself. But there's also a lot you can do with the environment, but that's our next slide, right? So I'm gonna let you reflect a bit more on the sales teams, Fredrik.
Right, because I would say working with SaaS sales, one of the biggest issues with SaaS sales overall is that there are only a few salespeople that are selling the majority of the deals, and I think that is the issue for most of the companies, to be honest. So I think just like having well performing teams is so crucial for the company. And I would say, like, for instance, in our company, say that we are working really closely now with our sales team to think about what are some things that doesn't work, what are some things that work better. And for me personally, it feels really good to have that dialogue with my colleagues. Okay, what are some things that's working for you right now, or what are some things you have tried recently in your sales meeting? And I think like having that kind of openness and the willingness to help each other, a willingness to work as a team, I think that is such a key for not only sales, but I think for the whole organization. And that is, of course, I will go into Seidat a bit more. The company where I work, we have a sales presentation platform, and we are actually helping companies to collaborate better together and to help even the low performers to perform as good as the best ones. But I will go more into that in the end of this session.
Fredrik, can I just add there, because you're talking like exactly like the hygiene factors of having everything that you need, obviously, to perform your tasks. But then it comes back to daring vulnerability and not knowing and all those things that you were into there. asking, hey guys, what did you do right this month? How come you, or I don't know how to tackle this client. It feels like they're about to buy, but I don't know what will get them off the fence and actually sign. Like, to really share that you're not, like, you might be stuck, and those things, and encourage those things in a team. And it's really funny because I also noticed that I have my former boss from the Stockholm School of Economics joining us here today. And may I see how she was a perfect example of also trusting and giving autonomy to everyone in her team. That's also a very, very important aspect of finding your own way of solving tasks.
Who is the person? We need a name.
Cecilia Fritz, give everybody a shout out.
Well,
Do you
thank
have
you.
anything to share, Cecilia?
That was lovely. I'm afraid I didn't manage to put my family name in the video today. I haven't worked with Google Meetings for a while, but yes, I had the pleasure of working with Mia at SSE for several years in the career management team, and we had a lot of practice with these sort of building up trust and giving each other room to act without fear. And self-leadership was something that we started with many years ago now in educating our students for. So we have learned along the way, I would say. And we've also seen what's not working in different teams and learned from that. So
yeah, and
yes.
and it's Cecilia, it's so wonderful to have you here, because it's also so interesting when we talk about the future, that we see that the Stockholm School of Economics, and I'm sure Hanken is doing the same thing as well, that you're adding these softer skills to a very numbers-driven curriculum, right? That there's an awareness that once these super brainy, and Fredrik, you can add yourself to the group, students exit from these high-ranking schools, and you end up in environments where leadership or the environment is not supporting you as a human, then what do you do? Like, you need to be charged with those tools. And I think it's so fantastic. And Cecilia, I can only salute you being the one who brought all of these things in to the Stockholm School of Economics. And I hope we fostered a few good future leaders out there. Yeah.
Well, I wasn't exactly alone, but definitely if you look at how it used to be 20, 15 years ago, it was unheard of, this kind of the soft skills. It was not, the students were not interested because they were all going to have careers in investment banking and earn a lot of money. But nowadays it's expected from you to have this kind of maturity and well-roundedness when you graduate. Not to mention at a higher level for the MBAs, you are definitely focusing on developing these skills. So it's really a different world compared to what it used to be, which is quite encouraging, really, for the future.
Thank you so much, Cecilia, for sharing that. And if we continue, of course, we can discuss for hours about this topic, and perhaps that's a coming webinar in the future. Thank you for sharing that. Next topic, it goes along with what we have discussed already. We are triggered by an environment. We have talked about the environment at work. For instance, now we talk about leadership, and then the great leader Cecilia was. I am also very lucky to have an amazing manager or CEO here at Seidat, who's very open and looking for ways to improve the sales people and everybody in the company. So I've also been benefited by a safe or good environment at work. But there are other things as well. And there was a reason you wanted me to add this photo as well, this fireside. Could you start us off a little bit here, Mia, on this topic?
Yes, definitely, because what happened when I was at the Stockholm School of Economics and I was reading all these research about how the brain is affected by leadership and social factors, I tumbled across this amazing field, which is quite new, or publicly new at least, which is how the brain is affected by our environment. So you might have the best leadership in the world, but you're going to be triggered by the room where you're at. So again, measuring waves in the brain, what parts of the brain is triggered by watching what kind of pictures or being in what kind of environments. You've come to the conclusion that both colors, shapes, materials, the composition, how we design a room, all affects us. And it can trigger our stress center, the amygdala, or it can trigger like dopamine, this substance that wants us to do more of one thing, which is the same thing that has us stuck on the phone and in a bad sense, but it can also be the substance that also makes us engaged and curious and want to do more of something, right? You can also see that oxytocin, actually in teams with high levels of psychological safety, you see that oxytocin, the love hormone that supports our well-being, is higher. So there are all these things happening in us. And what I think is so fascinating is that it's really our Stone Age brain that reacts. So I know that in my courses, many people are triggered. They're like, oh, well, I'm rational. I have access to my prefrontal cortex where I do my executive decisions. I'm not affected by, oh, yes, you are. Sorry, because you're human, you are affected by this. So what we look for when we design brain-friendly offices and environments, we're looking for things in our design that reminds us of the environment when it's really like a summer, when you have a lot of food in nature. You can judge that an environment is high, you have a high rate of survival in this kind of environment. There's food, there's protection, you have the fireside here, there's warmth, I can survive. So lighting is super important in this aspect as well. And I was thinking, so biophilia is another word in this slide. That's the hypothesis that we're really affected by anything that's alive. So what's most alive? Well, us humans, but also nature. So anything that reminds us of nature, and especially nature itself, obviously, is good for us. And it's going to lower stress levels in our brain. And what does that do? Remember, it gives you access to your whole brain capacity, even your executive functions, right? So I want to sorry, Fredrik. Yeah.
A question. So this might be a little bit off topic, but you talked about nature. Do people on the countryside, do they feel better than people living in the city?
It's really interesting because there's been big studies made in they started in the UK and then it spread across Europe. I don't know how far they got, but they studied blue and green spaces. So blue and green, as in blue as in water and ocean, and green as in forests. And you can actually see that people are healthier there. I think it's the University of Sussex who did it. I can look it up. Anyone who wants to know the reference, just let me know, because I have it. It's so interesting. So yes, we are affected like that. But also we can trick the brain by copying nature, like using green and blue colors indoors. Or I don't know if you can see my ceiling here, but anything that makes us feel like, oh, we're protected, we have some shelter, that's also good for us. But I wanted to do a super short experiment. Sorry, Fredrik, for broadcasting now, but I get so excited about this.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But just so, so everybody, if you just close your eyes and you think about now, we're leaving winter behind, hopefully soon. Stick season still out there. But if you think about cherry trees, you know, springtime and what they look like, you're walking in a park. Just imagine that feeling. I know if anyone knows Stockholm, Kungsträdgården, springtime, it's so beautiful, right? So now if you open your eyes and Fredrik shows us the next picture, I bet no one thought about this. This is Kungsträdgården. This is cherry trees, right? But this actually triggers stress response in our brain. These kind of color palettes that show us there's no leaves on the trees, there's no green there's no green grass, there's like no fruit around, there's not going to be fruit a long time here, for a long time here. And that actually tells the brain, or tells us, get out of there, move to better hunting grounds where you can actually survive. So you created an away response. This is not, I mean, obviously you're not running away from Kungsträdgården if you're there, but the instruction from the brain is this, because the brain has as a prime function to make you survive. So if we move to the next slide. No, go back. There. Why do we then decorate our offices like this? We use the same color palette as in the winter, which means that we're also triggering our stress system when we're indoors. I mean, you can see the poor little plants they made a good effort here to put some plants in there, but that's not going to be enough to trick the brain. If you move to the next slide, Fredrik, I think most of us pictured this, right? When we talked about cherry trees and cherry blossom. And this, some research has found that it's probably, the reason why we like flowers is probably because, next slide, it signals to us that there's going to be fruit here soon on the trees, or these flowers are going to develop into food. So this, okay, so I've broadcasted now a bit, Fredrik, and this is, I get so passionate about this because I want the world to know, so we can create environments where we're less stressed and have more access to our full capacity, and also become more collaborative, come up with good solutions with our colleagues. And if you just go to the next slide, just to refer you to, I actually offer right now, like I mentioned, a free 4-week online course, Make Room for Brain-Friendly and Productive Meetings, it's called. So if you want to learn to stimulate cooperation, innovation, and engagement with your colleagues, please apply. It started yesterday, so I kept it open, especially for this webinar, and we'll accept people until Wednesday, so that's tomorrow. So if you're watching tomorrow, you can still apply till midnight. And and at this moment, I'm only offering this course in Swedish, I should add, because I haven't gone global yet. But if you just want to check out my offerings, otherwise my web page is there also, miaöhrn.com. So
beautiful. Is it possible? Is it live sessions, or is it possible to watch afterwards also?
No, everything is recorded. Classes are published Mondays, and then there's a live Q&A Thursday mornings, but everything's recorded, so you can watch at your own pace.
And you had you said that you were a bit shocked. You had 70 people register for that course.
I know, I'm so excited. I didn't know that people would be so, and there are all these people from property and retail and other, like, architects who joined to learn more. So I'm very excited. Yay. Thanks.
Cecilia, go ahead. You're muted.
Sorry, I slipped on the clicks here. I was just going to give Mia an applause.
Okay.
I wasn't raising my hand.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And of course, make sure to scan the QR code there if you haven't done it yet. If we cannot go with the last part of this, we have gone into to online meetings as well. Something that I talk a lot about with salespeople is that quite many are having boring meetings. Salespeople might use the same kind of presentations for each meeting, and they have used that presentation for several years. So that can be quite draining for that salesperson. Also, if a salesperson is in a meeting with a client and they're having kind of like I would say monologue, or like a discussion that doesn't enhance a conversation and makes it exciting, then it can be quite draining as well. So that is something that I'm very passionate about when it comes to sales. That make it interesting when you're in a meeting with a potential buyer or with anybody. Make sure that you find things that you can, that will be interesting for that specific person. Don't just have your own agenda. Okay, so now I have 30 slides I have prepared for this meeting. I will show all of those slides, and I want you to passively listen to me when I go through all of these slides. I think that is not 2024. That is not the way of that is not the new way of, well, how can I say it? That is not, modern way to work with sales or with presentations or collaboration at all. And I will also go in a little bit into that. And also, when we talked about dopamine, I think that is interesting. I can ask you, Mia, what would make you feel like a dopamine rush in a meeting? Like what would trigger that, and what would make you feel drained?
Well, like you said, repetitive, and when I don't connect, and when I can tell that you've had this presentation so many times. But I think, okay, so I don't have the research for this, particularly when it comes to sales presentations, but using colors and a variety, changing not just your tone of voice, but the imagery that you're using, I think is very important. I mean, again, I don't have, oh, I do have my phone here. The experts of the dopamine rushes are the people developing these apps, right? If you would have a situation where you did this, black and white, how exciting would that be? Now you'd be bored quite quickly. So using the power of color also in presentations, I think, is very, very powerful.
Yeah, and that is, and as you have noted, we have tried to make the backgrounds quite interesting. So it's not just a white wall for you to look at, but something that can make you think, maybe something that can make you, dream a little bit. I think that adds also to the excitement. Now we will actually summarize, and after we have summarized, I will go a little bit more into what I'm doing at Seidat. If we start about do's and don'ts, this is, of course, we can add a lot of things to this, but we have gone through quite a lot together, and of course, it's difficult to have everything, to remember everything we have discussed. If we start with the first one, Mia, you start up. No identity.
I mean, I think it's such a waste with people not developing their identity in the office. And like you said, many meetings take place online, and that's when we have the external contacts. But you're always in a place, right? No matter if you're connecting digitally, you're going to be in a place yourself and be affected by that. And as an employee of a company, you are going to be affected by the environment of the office if you're working in the office, right? So use that strategically.
Right. So I would say if you don't have a solid or strong branding, I think that is a very important thing that you should do, to invest in that and make sure that what you like, the value you're actually bringing to that customer is something that you can live up to. That is something I also talked about with our customers, about that they might have the best solution in the world, but when they are meeting customers, they have the most boring meetings and the most ugly presentations. So already, like, the professionalism, it dies directly because they're not showing what they actually can deliver. So if you don't have a solid plan for your branding, I would say please focus on that. Then we talked about difference between the back office and reception area. Would you like to add something there, Mia?
I just see that common mistake in many offices that you splurge on the meeting rooms and reception area, and then the back office is very boring and triggering your stress response in the brain. But we know that people is the biggest asset of a company. So don't make that mistake. And also the variation. We said no variation here. That's a no-go, and it has to do actually with our constant search for food. And if you want to get dopamine going, it's to create that kind of a bit of a mystery in the office. Like not everything is obvious. It's like this picture we're seeing here. The lake is obvious, but then there's something happening in the background. There might be more food behind those hills. That's what signaling, like that's the basis of the signal in the brain that we want to discover more. So that's the variation part as well.
Right. And then we talk about do's, and of course there are many things you can do. But first of all, build trust. So as a salesperson or whatever you do, it's more important what you actually do and trying to help rather than the pitch that you're using. So, and also as a leader, it's so much more important what you do than actually what you say to the employees. If you're living a totally different life than what you want the company to be, then perhaps you're not the right person for that role. So building trust, if that is so essential. If you talk about parents, I have 2 daughters, and for me it's so important. Of course, for every parent, but showing by example. If you tell the kids, you shouldn't hit each other, then make sure not to do that yourself. If you tell them to be kind, be kind. If you tell them to not to scream, then try not to scream yourself. I think that is so basic, but still so important. And we can also think about in our own life, is there something where we can change personally to build more trust? Because it's it can take time to build trust, but then we can lose trust really fast as well. Then we need to rebuild it. Then we have, would you like to continue there, Mia, with trust or with the brand experience?
Just adding to trust, that there's also very extensive research by Patrick Lencioni and his fantastic structure, where he says that trust is like the basis of any well-performing team, right? So if you want to go off and look for more information there, Patrick Lencioni is to recommend. But and the brand experience is really about the feeling. It's not about the words. It's not about the colors even. It's what kind of feeling do you want to have? And that goes for the office as well. It's the kind of feeling, not the looks, not what the coolest architect did in the last magazine that was popular, but it's what is the feeling that you're looking for. Right?
Yes. And then I'm thinking about, I went to a conference in Dublin a while ago. It's a SaaS conference for SaaS companies, and they actually mentioned North Face and Nike, and then they talked about, okay, what kind of feeling do they want you to feel? Now, when I look at this picture, I could see him having like a North Face jacket on, because that's the feeling they want. They want us to feel like we're adventurous, right? That's the feeling they want to show. And if we talk about Nike, it's like, okay, you can dream, you can achieve things. Nothing is impossible. Just do it. So I think that is so important. I think it was interesting that when Nike, when they do their marketing, it's not okay, this is the price we have on the shoes, we have the best pricing, but it's more about the feeling, right? What kind of feeling do we want you to have when you wear our clothes? Yes. Last point there, Mia, would you like to add something before I kind of go more into Seidat overall?
Yeah, I often say the more digitalized we get, the more human we need to be, because we live in a digital world. But that just adds to the importance of knowing more about our brains and our human function and how we react, so we can still thrive and have a good level of well-being at work, but also in private, I think. So yeah, make it human. remember, that's what we are.
Right. Thank you so much. And I will start to go into that a little bit, make it human, because if we talk about sales and we talk about presentations, it's so much about being to be customized and to be, to be able to link what you can offer to the actual needs of the customer. And that is one of the core things of our company, Seidat. We're a Finnish company based in Helsinki, Finland. Also having Swedish investors, so we're like a mix between Sweden and Finland. But our goal is to enhance collaboration within the company, especially within sales, for sales teams to work together better, but also to sell more, but also for the marketing team that they can work better with sales. And we have been able to see very good results from the companies using our tools in Finland and also in Sweden. Some have even doubled their sales using our platform. And there are various ways that they have been able to do that. And I will shortly go into that. But if we kind of take it on an overall level, what is Seidat and what can it do? So Seidat is, as I mentioned, is a presentation platform that you can use throughout the whole sales cycle. You can create slides, you can present them like we're doing right now. We're using a Seidat presentation. You can also share it to customers and then even analyze and in the end, even sign the presentations or the contracts directly in the platform. And the good news is with Seidat is that you have a tool that is it's very modern. It will help the customers to feel that they're actually engaging in the conversations. But also, you as a salesperson, you will be able to get the data when the customers are opening a presentation. So after you've had a meeting, you will send that presentation to the customer, and then you will have the information when the customer opens the presentation. And then as you link it to the CRM, you can actually see what they have been looking at. And that is such a key to actually understanding what the customer is interested in, not only during the meeting and before the meeting, but obviously as well after the meeting. And when it comes to presentations overall, there are many ways that we can help companies. If I focus on two things, then it is to save time and to sell more. And then if we go into saving time, then in our platform, we have in the presentation platform where you can gather all of the presentations you have in your company in one place, which makes it super easy for the people in your organization to find the right presentation at the right time. So instead of looking into 20 different subfolders in your Teams or in your SharePoint, then you can actually go to the platform and then you can search for that specific presentation. You can even use tags. So in that way, you can actually find it very, very easy. It also becomes super transparent. So a problem we have seen with sales teams is that in many cases, marketing will create fantastic slides that is really compelling, but they're actually not used by the sales team. Because they have downloaded the presentations and nobody's actually knowing what they are using in meetings. But in Seidat, this is transparent. So you will actually be able to see the slides that your colleagues are using as well. And also the slides that you're sending to your specific customers. So in that way, it can save you so much time, but also help you understand what is important for the customers. And I mentioned that you use Seidat in the meetings, and as you send a link to the customer, then it doesn't matter how big the presentation is. Because if you want to have a really compelling, interesting presentation, you cannot just send it as a PowerPoint file. You perhaps need to send it as a PDF. But then there might be elements like videos or other kinds of materials that you want to showcase, but it's not possible to do that in the PDF. But in Seidat, you can do that very easily. You just share a link to the presentation, and then you as a salesperson will get a notification directly when your customer is opening. A last part how you can sell more is that you can connect it to your CRM system, which means that you can automate a lot of processes. For instance, when you create proposals, then when you put in a new stage in your CRM, then Seidat can automatically create a new slide for you and automate things in your sales process. So If you want to sell more as a salesperson, or if you want to save time, then make sure to book a meeting with me. And also, if you want to have more brain-friendly meetings, if you want to understand more about what Mia can offer, then make sure to book a meeting with her as well. We have here our QR codes, and we will be so happy if you reached out to us. Do we have anything else, Mia? Would you like to say something here before we finish, or is there anybody else who would like to share something in the chat?
I can only sign off. I checked the chat. There's nothing there at the moment, at least. But I can only salute you, Fredrik, on your Seidat very dopamine-friendly presentation deck there with colors, and that makes you, from the impression I get, is at least that they make me want to find out more about your products as well. So they seem brain-friendly.
Thank you so much. And Mia, you are also offering services for companies that they can actually have it more brain-friendly. Would you like to share something about that? That if they want to have a much more brain-friendly office, what can they do, and what can you offer there?
Exactly. Thank you. So I offer consultancy support, and I go in and I help the leadership team to articulate what they actually, the feeling they want, the way they want their employees to work. And then I look at the office layout and check is it compatible, or do you need to make adjustments. And then I have a group of interior designers or architects in a network, like an ecosystem, that I bring in and to make those changes and provide the full service if that's what you want. And sometimes you're almost there and you just make small adjustments, and that's something I can help with as well. So in contrast to many architects or larger firms, I can bite-size the offer for you.
Lovely. Good. I don't know if I mentioned that, but here where I work, we have our office in downtown Helsinki, and we actually have a ping pong table here. We have a pool table, and also a lot of sofas to hang around. So I definitely understand the importance of having a nice office that you can actually feel relaxed as well. And also what we discussed beforehand, that if you're a startup, you don't want to have an office like the bank. You want to maybe be more flexible, right? So could you go quickly into that, what you mentioned there beforehand?
Yeah, I think a lot of mistakes that I see in offices is also long rows of desks and not having the sofas or the variation and these collaborative meeting spaces where meetings happen by serendipity, or the coffee machine or the canteen effect that they've even studied at Stanford, where you meet and socialize, and this where there's space for transition of knowledge and what have you. So I think the example of pool tables and ping pong tables and all of that is it's good for a young kind of attractive environment where you want to have that kind of relaxed feeling. If you're that kind of company, you might want to attract another kind of employees, and then you make it in a different way. But just like any brand, it's very individual per company.
Right. Alrighty. Well, with that, we want to thank all of you who attended today. We're so grateful for your attendance, and thank you so much for your comments as well, for taking of your precious time. I would also like to share that we have some coming webinars with Seidat. I will have one in about a week and a half, talking about customer understanding throughout the sales process. So if that is something that interests you, please make sure to sign up for that one. And we will have some coming events as well. So please make sure to look at our website, seidat.com. And also make sure to book meetings with me and Mia, and we can hopefully help your company to grow. Have a good day. Thank you so much.
Have a good day. Take care. Bye.